Hi, everybody. This is Adam Elenbaas from Nightlight Astrology, and these are your horoscopes for the month of May 2019. So this is your Sun and Rising sign horoscope for Pisces. Well, the beginning of the month is super packed with a lot of astrological transits. They all center around Mercury. Now, when you take a look, Mercury is currently moving through your second house, house of money and finances, and resources and expenditures. And it is making squares to Saturn, South Node, and Pluto to start the month. Not easy, but it's also hitting a trine to Jupiter in Sagittarius in your 10th house of career, and making a sextile with mutual reception to Mars in Gemini in your 4th house. I like this as a moment of mobilizing your resources in order to do something that you really feel very strongly about. So I'm going to say that again. Finding strategic, smart ways of using what you have or of mobilizing your resources to make hard or difficult but important decisions, which may end up benefiting you from financially or professionally, or may enhance your home or family life in some way. But I think that there's some sort of executive decisions that are being made. And I'm saying that for almost every horoscope this month. But for you, these may also constellate around friends, allies, benefactors, people that you do or do not want to associate with. It could have to do with different kinds of compromises that you are or are not willing to make between money, resources, and friends or colleagues. For example, you could be a part of a group that wants a lot of your time and energy and resources, and you're having to make a big decision about whether or not you want to continue doing it. Or you might be a part of, you might be helping out with projects with other people, giving a lot of your time and energy or love and care, and maybe it's time to pull out. Or you might be thinking about committing at a deeper level your money or energies or resources to a group or a community, or you may be thinking about whether or not you should accept some form of help. These are kind of the executive decisions I see as a real possibility during this time. But I think the potential for real productivity is there. Mercury is trying to Jupiter in your 10th house. That looks good, looks positive, beneficial time for money and business. There's a lot of sort of, kind of that idea of like a cost-benefit analysis, or of really careful scrutiny of details with Mars and Mercury in a mutual reception, perhaps related to money and also assets like property or real estate or something like that, thinking through how to solve problems financially. So those are some of the things I'm getting in the first 3 days. That's a lot in 3 days. So then you're going to May 4th, where there is a new moon in Taurus in your 3rd house. The 3rd house energy, it has a lot to do with our immediate environment, our neighborhood, things happening in the immediate sphere of our life. Not necessarily our home and nuclear family, but the kind of immediate world around us. It also has a lot to do with the life of the mind. Sometimes siblings are also involved in the 3rd house. So sometimes a new moon cycle with Taurus in the 3rd, changes of mind, changes regarding the mind or learning, changes in the immediate environment, a new cycle of development or growth focused on that area of life. Sometimes big things are changing with siblings. But you're going to see also that just a little bit later in the cycle, when you get to like May 8th, May 9th, right around there, you're going to see Mercury get into a conjunction with Uranus in Taurus in that 3rd house. That's a kind of mental breakthrough moment. That's a moment of having your mind opened. It can be a very disruptive moment too, especially for things like technology or travel. This is that time where, something erratic happens while you're on the subway, like the subway, like when I was in New York, there'd be like delays. You'd be sitting on the tracks sometimes for an hour. There's like erratic things that happen. You spill something on your keyboard and it stops working. So Mercury Uranus is very erratic, but almost always what comes out of the sort of erratic quality around anything really is some kind of breakthrough, some kind of discovery. So Mercury Uranus is sort of a trickster, and it should present you with some kind of more dynamic and inspiring mental or intellectual energy, or just may infuse your immediate environment with a almost manic kind of electric quality for a day or two. This is coming right after the new moon. Now, if we back up a little bit, you can see what this is also probably related to. On the 5th and the 6th, Mars in Gemini, Mercury's sign, will be opposing Jupiter in Sagittarius in the 10th. There appears to be a little bit of a conflict between, a little bit of an adversarial relationship between Mars and Jupiter in the house of home, family, and roots, and professional life. There's something pushing and pulling between those two areas this month, some kind of philosophical tension maybe in your relationships privately versus, some kind of more dynamic state of growth or expansion that's happening professionally. So I would expect there to be some tension between those two areas. But there's also Jupiter-Mars dynamics in general. There's a lot of bravado. There's a feeling of receiving a vision or have, it's a little like, it feels a little bit like Joan of Arc. Mars Neptune can be like that. Mars Jupiter can also be like that, where it's kind of like, this is my vision, this is my quest, this is my cause, now I'm off. So it's a very charged kind of energy this month, a very idealistic month to come. Now, between the 6th and the 10th, Venus is also going through squares to Saturn, South Node, and Pluto and Capricorn in the 11th house. Again, choices about allies, friends, more consequential choices in relationships, and it's rooted back to the 2nd house, money, financial concerns, business, professional matters. These are serious dynamics for Venus, Saturn, and Pluto. Not surprising to see deeper and more challenging and, again, sort of consequential, heavier dynamics in relationships. So that is so much for the first 10 days of the month, right? So then when we get into the 10th to the 15th, you get into a period that's a little bit more productive. It's a little less heady. It's a little less volatile. It's a little bit more like, all right, let's do something about this. Actions are now really, things are being implemented. And you feel that way, that you're going to see something solid and practical coming out of all of this, because the sun is going to go through trines to Saturn, South Node, and Pluto, while the moon will come in and form a grand Earth trine from the 7th house of relationships. So here you're thinking of making choices in relationships and with others to do something or to implement something. I see this as a very practical time of trying to manifest or realize an intention, or to at least put the wheels in motion. So I like that period of time, really productive. But then when you get to the full moon, gosh, things get really intense again. The full moon in the house of the higher mind, related back to our highest ideals, our beliefs, our spirituality. There, the moon is in its full moon in Scorpio, with the ruler Mars in its fall. So this is probably going to be a more emotionally turbulent full moon, where there is a much the need to defend or protect one's sense of belief or truth is going to be really important, I think, for Pisceans. And we can also see this happening, like this is sort of a foreshadowing, by the way, of a grand water trine that will come a little bit later on. We'll eventually see a little bit of a connection between Mars and Pisces, and then the moon back in Scorpio. That's coming later in the spring, summer. That's later in the summer. So at any rate, a little bit more emotionally volatile, centering around the need to protect or define or defend beliefs. And I think a little bit more emotionally volatile. And then you can see, however, that there's a really nice transit right after that from Mars in Cancer to Chiron in Aries. That, that generally would give you your kind of your moment for reconciliation, healing, understanding your wound. Chiron tends to bring up our wounds for examination and usually grants us a deeper level of understanding or wisdom about our wounds and allows us to do some healing. So whatever emotional turbulence is there, I think, again, it relates back, Chiron in the 2nd house. There's something going around money, finances, resources, work-related matters. But there is someone or something that may also advocate for you this month, that may help you. You're not alone in needing to stand up for yourself. So that's also really important. Now, the final transit of the month is taking place between the 29th and the 30th. And that is taking place between the planet Mercury. And this will happen, actually, you can see the 29th and the 30th. Right, 29th to 31st, right all the way through there. So you're going to see Mercury in the third house opposing Jupiter in the ninth, while T-squaring Neptune in the 12th. Now, this transit, the combination of this transit is once again heavily philosophical. There's, whether it's something that you're learning or studying, or whether it is a deeper adversarial dynamic where you're getting into things politically, religiously, philosophically, at work or in relationships or in your family. You have to be careful this month with the mind sort of running really hot. Oops, I'm sorry. I just read on accident for Aries. Let's go back. That was exactly what I said for my Aries forecast. Okay, sorry. Here we go. So yeah, here it is. So at the end of the month, that philosophical tension that I was just talking about, which is still very much at play, is more in the Pisces chart here. Now that I have my ducks in a row, you're looking at the conflict between home, family, roots, and professional life. And there is some conflict or tension there. It comes back, though, to you, because when you're looking at Neptune in the first house, you're looking at, where does the synthesis lie? And it lies with you and not being clear potentially with who you are. There are different sides of you that are trying to figure out where you really stand, what you're really committed to. This has been true for a while for Pisceans, I think. Jupiter in the 10th, there's a lot of growth, there's a lot of development professionally, but there are some philosophical challenges or differences on the home front. Sometimes Mercury rules your marriage and relationship house, sometimes in relationships this is present. And it comes back to being clear about who you are and what you want. Any kind of secrecy or double standards or hypocrisy, this has the potential to sort of come out and be like, well, who are you really? What do you really want? How are you really defining your life? And are you really living in terms of, what you really believe and think? So a lot of the times we blame other people for our problems when really we're just not being clear about who we actually are. Could be something like that at the end of the month for Pisceans, but I think it's a moment of unique synthesis philosophically. Again, a kind of an adversarial dynamic between the work area and the home area at once. Figuring that out may not be easy, but it comes back to really sitting with yourself and being real about, where you want your life to go. There's a lot of questions about that as Neptune's been in your first house for a while. So the clarification process is happening as Neptune is continuing to churn through that first house. And every time that these kinds of dynamics hit with Neptune, there's a lot of growth and there's a lot of exploring of new ideas about who you are, but there's also coming back to questions about, well, a double-bodied sign like Pisces, you try on a lot of different things, and a lot of things can feel really good, but not necessarily be the right fit. So be really patient with this process of individuating. Even though there may be the pressure to make some kind of philosophical conclusion about things at the end of the month, remember also that you are a work in progress, and some degree of not knowing is also okay. Sometimes just being honest about the conflicts that we have inside of us and then just saying, I'm trying to figure it out. Even that kind of honesty can be better than trying to, fake it one way or the other, or trying to come to a black and white decision. So at any rate, that's my thoughts for Pisces for this month. I hope you have a great month of May. I hope you'll share your stories on my YouTube feed. I'd love to hear from you guys. And I'll look forward to speaking with you again for June's astrology. Okay, take care.